Well, hello, my friends, my fellow Americans. Today, I wanted to try to talk about and comment on this story that's going on in the news about this Christine Ford, Dr. Ford, and Brett Kavanaugh, who is being considered as a Supreme Court justice. And the backstory is about 30 years ago, when these two were both in high school, Christine Ford, Dr. Ford, she alleges that Mr. Kavanaugh, when they were both in high school at a party, they went to these private schools. That she went to an all girls school and he went to an all boys school. And supposedly on one of these nights, in about 1982, like I say, they're both in high school, some 30 years later now, and she claims that Brett Kavanaugh forced her into a room. Well, she said she didn't know who forced her into a room, but she was at this party. When she showed up, she said that Brett Kavanaugh and this other kid, I can't remember his name right now. I'm just winging it. I should have said that off the bat. Been wanting to do this for a long time, talk about politics, get into it, talk about it. And I thought, why not? So without any rehearsal or practice, boom, here I go. So anyway, back to the story. So she said that she came to this party because there was a friend there she wanted to see. You know how boys and girls, you know, they go to these parties to hang out with each other, something like that. When she said when she got there that he was Brett Kavanaugh and this other guy that she claims was in the room. I don't remember his name. I wish I did. But if you're familiar with the story, you know who I'm talking about. But I'll get better at this. I'll get a computer in front of me. But anyway, so she, after about an hour, needed the bathroom, so she goes upstairs. And boy, I'm making this too long. But she goes upstairs and she said that somebody from behind her to use the bathroom, and somebody from behind her shoved her across the hall into a bedroom. Okay, and in this bedroom there was some music going, and Mr. Kavanaugh and this other guy came in the room. They turned up the music a little bit louder, and then Brett Kavanaugh forced himself upon her basically, and was groping her and trying to get her clothes off, she said. And she says she believes that had he been able to get her clothes off, he would have raped her. And she says, but that was impossible because she was wearing a bathing suit, one-piece bathing suit under her clothes. So anyhow, and she said she had one drink. She also said she remembers very well that it was Mr. Kavanaugh. She'd been examined in the hearings today that Congress is having, and she said she remembers very well, it was not mistaken identity, that it was Kavanaugh. But while giving her testimony, some of the things that stood out to me that I want to comment on are one of the things that she said happened was that this friend that she kind of liked, he was like watching and kind of like they both laughed and stuff, and then he was get up and was jumping on the bed, and he jumped on the bed, and when that happened a bunch, you know, they fell off the bed, and then Kavanaugh was not on top of her anymore, so she was able to get her out of the situation at that time. But she said that she started to scream for help before that, and she looked at her friend thinking that her friend had probably helped or something, but he didn't. And anyway, but what stood out to me was then about 6 weeks later, she says she saw him at a grocery store. Okay, she went there with her mom. She gets to the grocery store, and she sees this other kid, which is really interesting. The way she said it. She says that she wanted to say hi because, you know, she was kind of a friend and she kind of ran into him, and she wanted to say hi to him, so she said hi. And then in her statements today, she says, well, but when she did, he seemed nervous and like he was avoiding her, and she seemed surprised by that. And also she said that he looked sick. So what's incredible to me to think about this is that why would she be surprised that he seemed nervous or sick? And she tells us as though like, oh, I was like, oh, I just want to say hi, and then he seemed nervous and then almost looked sick. To me, that's not credible. It's the story doesn't match what reality would be, I don't think. It seems to me that if you have somebody that is that you almost got raped and they watched, and you know, this is not somebody you go up to later and say hi, how's it going, and all that, you know what I mean? But she did, and then she said that she was surprised that he didn't that he looked nervous. You know, he looked nervous, and he acted nervous, and he looked sick. So this to me is one incredible piece of information that doesn't really stack up. And just her whole testimony, watching it today, there was several things I'm trying to remember. Before this, my opinion, I should have stated that as well. My opinion is that most likely this is just something that is being put together to try to discredit Brett Kavanaugh. I don't know Brett Kavanaugh. I don't know Christine Blasey Ford, or however you pronounce her name, Dr. Ford. I don't know either one of them. I'm looking forward to watching more come out about it, and I'll be making up my mind for sure as it goes, as well as everyone else. But just where it's this thing happened today, where they gave their testimony. I didn't get to watch Brett's his examination before the Congress today because I was actually working. But I just, on my way to work, being that I'm in the West and that's Eastern time, I was able to both listen to and watch a little bit of Dr. Ford's testimony. Anyway, there's just some other things that some other people brought up. I was able to jump on at my lunch break, and Laura Ingraham has tweeted out at some point that she didn't want to come give her testimony. That is, Dr. Ford claimed that she couldn't get to New York to do this because she was afraid of flying, since this was so traumatic to her, this experience. But that doesn't seem credible in the way that Laura Ingraham has brought up that she has actually taken 4 different trips to 4 different countries. Costa Rica is one of them, I remember. Don't remember the other countries, but she has flown to exotic places around the world. So that doesn't seem to be truthful, that she wasn't able to fly because flying scares her. The other thing that's incredible about this thing is Dianne Feinstein leaks this to the press somehow, and claims that she didn't want to go public with this, etc., etc. Watching her give her testimony, she looked very comfortable. I mean, not at first, but after she got going, she looked very comfortable and very happy to be there. She looks like, I don't know, I sense there's some things that aren't quite right, but that's my opinion with her. One of the things they talk about taking a break, and she's like, oh, well, is that going to work for you? And they're like, well, yeah, we're taking a break. She's like, oh, I'm just used to being collegial. Now, I know I'm making a little bit of fun of her here, but what is that? Why? It's strange to me that she's doing this weird. It's weird. Some of the stuff she does is just weird to me. But like I say, I'm not saying that she that Brett is innocent. I'm looking at these details and saying what's really going on, what's happened here. So yeah, it's just really interesting to me. There's some other details that are kind of interesting. She claims that she wanted to remain anonymous, and then she called, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, like 4 times, and she didn't want the story to go out. That's another inconsistency that's been brought out. Can't remember where I read that, but that was in the news as well. And so some of these things are inconsistent. There's a lot of inconsistencies in what some of the things that she said. On the one hand, she remembers very well. How could I forget? This is such an extreme tragedy. And then she cites different things about psychology, because she's taken psychology college course. I think she might be I know it's dumb that I don't know this, right? But I think she has a degree in psychology, okay? And one thing that was interesting, that I listened to Rush Limbaugh for a minute, and he said that it's interesting that Dr. Ford felt like it was strange to do this polygraph test, and because in the questioning it was like, well, this can either prove you to be innocent or to prove you to be, and then they used a word here again. I'm not prepared, but there was a word that they used that I don't remember what the word is, but there's only A or B, right? You're innocent or you're guilty, right? So those are the 2 options that are available, and she seemed to struggle with that understanding anyway, and I thought that was strange. So the other thing that I thought was interesting and striking is that she claimed that, and I listened to her